Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. We're 2/3 of the way through season 2. I'm your host, Ike. And before I make any more odd noises, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if you still have the bandwidth after you enjoyed this episode, please share this with someone who you think would like it. Or just subscribe yourself if you haven't already. That would mean a lot. So, this week I did a first of a sort at this new place. So currently where I'm tutoring, they have me every other week presenting a health lab. And if you knew me, you would know I don't know a whole hell of a lot about health. So that was new, different, and interesting. So I had to look up some stuff. I was very nervous, very much eating my feeling a la a box of Girl Scout cookies. Samoa's for life. What? And powered through it this Friday. Through, there was only 3 students, so that helped. But got through it. Kind of shook the nerves off, and so I'm feeling a lot better now. And feeling a lot better about work, too. It's just, kind of initially was very like, now I'm like, huh. So, yay. I don't know about where you are, but here in Los Angeles, it is raining very hard. Not today, thankfully, and I'm going to go out and take advantage of that and go take a walk. Work on what I know about my health. And, so how's it going where you guys are? Raining hard? Hardly raining? Let me know at like Ike on Twitter, or hit me up on Passion and Peeves Podcast at Gmail and let me know how the weather is in your neck of the woods. I'm curious. I learned a hard lesson the other day where so getting back into playing Magic online, especially testing for major tournaments, as I believe alluded to last week, I decided this week, oh cool, there's 2 tournaments I want to play, and instead of picking one and giving it my all, I decided to go both and half-ass both, so that gave me 2 very half-ass results and very half-ass feeling about it. Got a little down on myself yesterday. Luckily, sleep helped, but very much feel the fool, and learned a hard lesson and wrote it up on my this new room of mine. Came with an awesome whiteboard and now has never double Q written in very large letters. So hopefully I remember that lesson so I don't relive the same silliness that just occurred the other day. Also, in experiencing that silliness, which looking back is only silliness now, I very much realized that I have an anger problem. And I'm working on it. I've been working on it for a long time. Some people that have known me have known it's gotten better, but it's still got a long ways to go. Thinking about actually getting just 2 really cool quotes that I like. One of which kind of does and doesn't apply to this, which is, it's a misquoted thing from Walt Whitman a la Ted Lasso, but it's be curious, don't be judgmental, which is good in regards to, especially intercepting and integrating new information to your system, at least for me. And the other is Hate is a Lack of Imagination by Graham Greene in The Power and the Glory. It's a fantastic quote. I've heard it before, a la Pete Holmes when he was on, the guy who made Community's podcast. My brain is mush right now. It's a good thing I'm recording myself for people to hear forever. And I think the other one was by Ben Franklin. It's not anger without... There's one that's anger without reason. Anger is never without reason, but seldom with a good one. But the one I've heard is like, anything done in anger... Whatever is begun in anger ends in shame. Which very much is something that I feel like constantly. Anytime I'm angry and I do something, I always, kind of like, do the like look away, kick the floor, and just like try not to make eye contact with anybody because I feel like a giant tit. So, thinking about getting those tattooed. you want to reach out to any of the aforementioned links and let me know of any, if that's a good idea, bad idea, or if you have any tattoos that mean things to you that are kind of constant reminders. I'm very curious. I am currently inkless, but it's been kind of thinking about it for a while, and I think this might be a good one that would help me in the long run, but I don't know. Not sure. Thinking about it, though. So today's guest is Wess. This was recommended by season 1 guest Raina, and we had, I believe this is her brother actually, and we had a grand old time chatting about well, I'll let him say it. The Moped Whisperer, owner of 222 strung guitar strings, a psychic food server, and father of one. It's Wesson David.
That'd be me.
Are you sure it's Wesson David and not David Wesson?
Well, I think you're right.
Funny, I should ask that.
I don't know my own name. At every time I go to the doctor, or every time I have like concert tickets to pick up, any classroom, anything where the person says my name and doesn't know me, definitely 100% of the time gets it backwards.
Perhaps in those moments, perhaps in moments such as that, let's say if you were in church even maybe, would you have a favorite non-traditional curse word to utter in such an instance?
Oh yeah, son of a biscuit eater.
Oh, love it.
Definitely that one.
That extra bit of biscuit eater, not son of a biscuit, son of a biscuit eater.
Son of a biscuit eater, yeah.
Because you hear son of a biscuit, there's nothing wrong with that, but that eater just adds a little...
That person's eating biscuits. Like, man, that's country. That's as country as a porch couch.
Which is sad that is only relegated to being country, because porch couches are fire. Like, if you
I was gonna say, like, if I ever had the opportunity to have like a wraparound porch or even a big porch in general, I would put a couch on it, and I would enjoy that couch quite a bit.
It's the best.
You could call me country. Yeah.
The first and best experience I've ever had with a porch couch was I was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was 8 years old. It was hailing, and I sat on a couch and felt the water in the air as probably like gumball-sized hail drops just exploded all over our, and I'm not kidding, yellow brick road that we lived on. And that feeling in that moment is one of those, it's somewhere between indescribable and just zen-like all at the same time. So yeah, and I only could have experienced it because of a porch couch. So get on it, literally and figuratively.
I have family near Pittsburgh and been to Pittsburgh many times, and that back east, simple, loving, everybody knows your neighbor, and there's no fences between the houses. Like, man, there's something. I've always lived on the West Coast, and there's something special to be had from that. You know, I don't know.
There
what
is
back
to be sure. Yeah.
Oh man.
That being said, the weather out here a little bit too hard to beat. So I'm gonna stay out here. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I don't. Now that I'm getting a little older, I just turned 42 about a week ago.
Muscle tough.
Yeah. Thank you. 21 again, I like to say.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just besides the 117 degree heat here in Vegas, which it gets up to,
hard pass.
It's really nice not being cold all the time.
I'll bet.
Or at least for half of the year.
In moments such as those where you remember that it's nice to live where you are, do you have a favorite movie line that you like to quote? Or in any other circumstance where it fills up?
I watched the original Wayne's World probably 4,357 times.
Just an estimation.
So literally that's an exact number. Any quote from that movie is something that me and my family say on a regular. I'm also very partial to my cousin Vinny.
Oh yeah. 2 Utes.
But the weirdest one I say all the time and nobody ever gets it is when somebody's like crinkling paper or something, I go, Spivey, you got paper over there? and he goes, yeah. Well, give me some, shitbird. And that's from Dances with Wolves when they're shitting in the brush. I know that's a super weird movie quote, and nobody ever gets it.
It's a deep cut, and I love it.
But that one I say all the time. So I work in a coffee shop, like a really like fancy, modern, third wave style coffee shop where we're making latte art and we have smashed avocado toast. And like, I would say 90% of the kids that work there are in their early 20s. Yeah. Some are even like 19. And I could literally be their father. So I'm like quoting like movies like Wayne's World and you know what I mean? And like,
that's so awesome.
Somebody the other day was like, what's your favorite Keanu Reeves movie? And I'm like, oh, Babes in Toyland. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? You know, so on a daily basis, I get completely just like, I'm telling 6-foot jokes and everybody's 5'8" in the room, you know?
Okay. 1, love that. 2, love that expression. That is, wow, that was great. Oh my gosh.
So really quick, there's this great story. Pauly Shore, the comedian, came into my restaurant. I guess he moved to Vegas. So I actually have like this vendetta against him, but not like serious. It's more comedic. So there was a girl who was like 20 or 19, and she's working there, and he comes in for the first time, and I'm like a little bit starstruck. I'm like, oh, holy shit, you know, that's Pauly Shore.
Weasel.
And she goes, who? I go, like, Pauly Shore, he was like in everything in the 80s. He was on MTV, and he was at like Biodome. He even had a cartoon. And she goes, Pauly D from the Jersey Shore? And my face just like, it's like when you smell bad cheese. You know, like you smell like, you're like, oh, I wonder if this hamburger's still good. And you sniff it, and then you just like, like, what? And then it hit me that she doesn't know who Pauly Shore is. Now, the vendetta I have against him is, ironically enough, he heard us having this conversation, then he used it in his stand-up. Now, the same person that I went to their Super Bowl party literally said, hey, man, I went and saw, like, I said, hey, Chris, what are you up to? I went and saw Pauly Shore. I go, oh, he comes in our restaurant. He goes, wait a second. Did you talk about Pauly Shore and Jersey Shore? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, dude, he used that in his bit. Oh, my God. We both were like, ah.
That's so awesome.
So my vendetta against him is I want to become a comedian and get really, really, really popular. And then I'm going to be like, fuck Pauly Shore. He stole my moment.
That's awesome. Or as someone who works,
you know, maybe it'll happen.
As someone who works in the restaurant biz, what's your favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
Oh yeah. Oh boy. I make a lot of meals. One that's just like, that just hits home that you don't get very many places is like pasta with a vodka sauce. I'm Italian, and I worked in an Italian restaurant for many years, and vodka sauce is basically just like diced up bacon or prosciutto, or pancetta actually, and then they saute it with garlic, butter, and onions, and then they flambe it with vodka. So the vodka takes the it flambés and cooks the pancetta real nicely. Then you add the tomato sauce, and the rest of the vodka kind of takes the acidity out of the tomatoes, kind of sweetens them up a little. And then you add like heavy cream and a little bit of Parmesan for salt, and it just has this like tomatoey, creamy, salty, like little bit of something, je ne sais quoi. You can't quite put your finger on it. Um, and then you put it over a pasta, and it's just so good. It's just so good. So that's my favorite. That's one of my favorites. If I'm gonna make it for myself, I love cooking for my family, and I came up with a recipe called like drunken ham. I just get one of those.
Is that to be not confused with rum ham?
The name already sells it. So I literally I watched Sunny in Philadelphia, but I never saw that episode. And basically, yeah, it's just with whiskey instead of rum. But yeah, so I put sweet potatoes, brown sugar, a bunch of whiskey, and a stick of butter over a spiraled ham, and I basted it, and I just like almost burned it on the outside where it's like really glazed and like got a nice like caramelization. It's almost like beef jerky, but it's real sweet, and you get that little bit of like savory whiskey. Yeah. Oh baby, it is good. So yeah, it's probably a toss up between the vodka sauce and the ham.
That sounds amazing. All right, well now I have to ask. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I pride myself on being, as I got older, like I started cooking. Like my mother never really taught me too much cooking, like a little bit. But as I got older, I really started like, you go to a restaurant, you go, oh, I love pho, or I really love, Thai curry or something like that. French onion soup, like I love French onion soup. And so I was like, I'm gonna try making it. And oh my God, like now with the internet at your fingertips, like you can make any dish, like fairly simply, and it always comes out like crazy good. My wife's from Cuba, so she doesn't have a lot of like international cuisine. She doesn't even know it exists. So like I'll make some food. I'm like, here, try this, and she's like, holy, like what is this? This is like amazing. So it's kind of fun. Awesome. I've been really having fun with it and making some content videos as well.
Sweet. So, while we're in the kitchen, if you were a condiment, which do you think you'd be?
Probably pickles. Maybe like a sweet, spicy pickle. That explains a lot about my personality, because like I am. If you really know me, like I am the most giving. Like, if you call me at like midnight, like, hey man, I need you to help me change a tire, like I'll be there. But like at the same time, if I catch you fucking up, I will totally just poke and poke and poke and poke, and like if you tell me something that you don't like I will totally smash that button as many times as I can, which is the spicy part. So I'm basically a Sour Patch Kid.
Nice. Is there a poor man luxury that you still enjoy to this day?
Probably ramen. Oh, thrift stores, man. Ramen and thrift stores.
Hand in hand.
Ramen because, so ramen can be made like a million different ways. Yep. I make my ramen like this. I put the water in, I heat it up, I drop the ramen in, and I get it like al dente, like to the bite, like not hard, but not like where it's all puffed up. Like I hate that. So it's really like still stringy, still like, like crimped, like 80s crimped girl's hair, And so then my secret is like I put the lid on it and I dump all of the water out. Now if there's like a spoonful left, okay. But for the most part, like I'm not drinking broth.
Okay.
Then I put in the seasoning and I stir it and stir it and stir it, and then boom, right out of the pan, ready to go on the table.
Dig it. Stolen.
That's the way.
Happening.
And then thrift stores, what I love about thrift stores is, it's the Forrest Gump. You never know what you're gonna get. And as a young man, my dad, like I wasn't super rich, but at the same time, like the things that mattered, like your bicycle, tools, your bed, guitar, like I always got a really good one. And I still have the first hammer my dad gave me when I was like 10.
Awesome.
I still have my first guitar that my older sister bought me. It was $400, which doesn't seem like very much today, but back in like 1994, for a 14-year-old girl.
That's wow.
Like, who had like a little side job on the weekends.
Oh,
that was a lot of money.
Love.
Yeah. So, you know, so there's this certain kind of quality that like you can find certain like either clothing or, you know, pots and pans or dishes or whatever. Like everybody has their collection, you know? So I just love like poking around and finding like some cool, like, I don't know, like European brand that you never heard of that's just like a super high quality material like jacket or, you know, some pair of jeans that just like, oh God, these friggin' are made to fit me perfectly, you know? And like I'm basically Pigpen from Charlie Brown. Like I always just like I'm a mechanic and I work on motorcycles. I'm laying on the ground all the time. I'm just a dirty kid. So like I rip clothing and stain clothing like before it should wear out. So like the thrift store is like sometimes like I literally go there to buy clothing that I can destroy. You know, and then like if you buy something and you're like, I don't like this, like you don't feel bad that you spent like $80 on a pair of jeans that you just are gonna lay around in.
Yeah.
You know? So definitely that's you know, if I have an hour or two to myself or something, like I'll definitely jam to the local thrift stores and just kind of poke around. There's many times I've gone in and just not gotten anything.
So since we're talking about occupations, you've done, it sounds like, and are still doing two of the jobs that people usually try to avoid in manual labor, whether it be, you know, of a professional variety or not, and then the service industry. So what's a job that at some point in your life you wanted to pursue but are glad you didn't, if you still enjoy doing those?
Police officer.
Oh yeah?
So yeah, in my 20s, like I have like, how do I explain this? I have like this deep down vigilante, you know, like I'm trying to think of the word, like I am the hands of karma. Does that make sense? Like I don't trust the universe to make things right. Like I'm here to make things right. I can't tell you how many times like I've chased down like pickpockets, kids that were tagging, like hit and runs, and the guy took off, and I'm like back up, you know, I tear off after him, and I'm like chasing him, and I like got my phone with 911. I'm like telling them the description and everything, and they're like, "Dude, why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Because he'll get away." So I have this like. And it's not like I'm a saint, like, you know, I break the law just as much as anybody does, you know, not turn signal, making a right, not slowing down, a California turn, you know, California stop. So, but there's something to me that's like, you know, if I didn't do it, nobody would. And there's something like, you know, it's really nice not having a neighborhood all tagged up and all nasty and dirty, or people dumping shit in your yard or whatever, you know. So there's this certain like thirst for justice, I guess you could say, that I have, and definitely like a vendetta for people that have wronged myself and other people. So I was working in the service industry at a like a family style restaurant, and the manager was a lady, and she was married to a police officer, and he would come in all the time, and he was just kind of a jerk, you know, very demanding, just, you know, you look at somebody, you just see their persona and their face or facial expression, and they're just in a crappy mood, you know? So, you know, but for some reason, like being in the service industry, also, you got to kind of match the person's mood to like communicate with them. If you're like, oh, hi, and you're all bubbly and the guy had a bad day, you can read it on his face. Don't overdo it. You know, you meet him where he's at, you know? And so I kind of like, you know, went into his, you know, tone or valence or whatever you want to call it, and it was like, oh, hey, what's up, you know, oh, what's going on with you? And I had a shitty day, you know, it's too many people, making a big mess, got stiffed on a table, I'm done with this, you know, I want to choke somebody with a barbecue rib, and he's kind of like, that'd be awesome, you know. So anyways, I got to knowing this guy, and he was a police officer coming in uniform all the time, and he goes, "Hey, why don't you try out for the academy? You ever think about being a police officer?" I'm 6'2", probably about 180 at the time, and I said, I kind of have, but let me ask you. I asked him. I said, "Did it change you? Like, do you see the bad in people versus seeing the good, like, or neutral?" And he goes, "Absolutely." He goes, "I'm a jerk. I am, like, he asked my wife, I'm miserable to be around." He said, "I'm miserable to be around." And I was like, "Are you happy?" And he's like, "No." And just like, and he was just so blunt about it. And I don't know, I was just, at the time, I was just very carefree and happy. And, I'd work 5 or 6 hours and I make a couple $100. I'd go home and I'd go ride my dirt bike and I'd play guitar and I'd, just goof off and have just very light and no responsibilities and just happy all the time. So I didn't go that route.
Sounds like a wise
I don't know.
choice.
Something just told me, yeah, just that's not who you want to be. Like, it's gonna affect you versus you affect it. Like, So, yeah, I'm pretty glad I didn't. I mean, there's definitely a stability. You do your 25 years and then you retire and you got a big pension and you get a bunch of money and all that stuff. But if you're
that
like
25 years kills
cynical,
you, then like
jaded,
what's the use of it, right?
yeah, if that makes you super unhappy and then you're gonna stay that way for the rest of your life, like, is it worth it? Is it better to be happy with less money or grumpy and crappy with a whole bunch of money?
Well, while we're still in the same vein, what life lesson do you wish you learned sooner?
Get it in writing and trust your gut.
Those are pretty good ones.
Yeah, yeah. There, for the most part, oh, hey, I'll pay you back kind of thing, or you know, oh yeah, just sign this real quick and don't read it, or you don't need. Do you want a copy? No, don't worry about it. I'll get it to you later. That kind of stuff. And then trust your gut. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Oh hey, somebody comes up to you. Oh hey, I can fix the dent in your car. Give me $50. And you hand them $50, and then they just drill a hole in your car, and pull a screw in it, and yank the screw out. And yeah, it fixed the dent, but you have a hole in your car.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
So like stuff like that. Like, I don't know, $50, and you're just fixing people's dents on the side of the road. Like, that's weird. You know
that
what I mean?
sounds too good to be true.
Stuff that seems too good to be true.
Exactly.
Just trust your gut. I think as a young man, I was probably a little bit naive and easily, influenced or taken.
Yeah.
But I pretty soon, learned my lesson on that one. But, not to my demise or anything. Like, I didn't lose tons of money or, anything like that. But definitely, I wish I would have learned that.
Wish you'd have
earlier.
one less screw hole in your car.
Yeah, or just like, there was a couple of jobs that like, oh, we're gonna, they say one thing and then they end up doing another, and then they, they hold your pay, or, oh, it's an independent contractor versus like an hourly. I'm like, but this is an hourly job. Yeah, but it's just independent contract. Just sign this. Like, not questioning.
Especially, I
like
love
that,
those situations because they like make you, if you have a problem with it, they make you out to be the asshole. Like, why are you making this problematic? It's like, why are you making this weird? Like,
yeah, why are you changing what you just said to me? You told me it was this.
Yeah.
This is not normal. This is not normal to, hey, yeah, just don't worry about it. Yeah, I am worried about it. It has to do with my money. Like,
So on the flip side of this theoretical coin, do you have a life hack you'd like to share with the class to improve their daily living?
Yeah, if you get a ticket for anything, even if you're dead guilty, fight it.
Oh yeah. You're talking about like just appearing in court, right?
Just go up and say not guilty. Yeah. Well, you're gonna have, you know what I mean? So I've done this, and there's different levels of it too, which is cool. So I have a lot of vehicles, all different kinds. 2, 3, and 4-wheel vehicles, vintage ones, odd ones, stuff you don't see every day. And so for a good long time, I was getting pulled over, like, I'd say every 2 or 3 months, like just pulled over. What are you doing? What kind of bike is that? You need this. And I would get tickets, stupid stuff like going through a mall to avoid a red light, going 35 while my bike's supposed to only go 30.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff like that. And so, like, a couple of the police officers were kind of jerks about it. Like, they're just really just digging in and just, like, insulting and, like, why are you on this stupid thing, and just degrading and badgering and just kind of jerks. So, again, that whole vigilante, like, justice, that thirst for getting back and righting things, because I wasn't actively committing a crime. I was just going about my regular day. I just looked weird. I was just making more noise than somebody else, So I go into court to oh, you gotta, and they say, okay, you can pay the fine. It's $190, or you can go see the judge. Okay, well, let me go see the judge. Like, a couple times I paid, and I go, well, let me go see the judge. So I go in, and then the court attorney goes, okay, we got you at this and this. What do you want to do? You want to plead not guilty? I said, yeah. Oh, and then they tell you this big spiel. Well, you could be facing court fines and the court fees, and it could all add up to almost $1,000, or you can just pay the $200. I go, yeah, no, it's all right. I'll go for it. One day, I don't know, I just had I had just the thought, like, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
So I went in, not guilty. Okay, we're going to set this for trial at this such and such day. 3 months later, they go to trial. I go in, I show up in a suit with a nice briefcase with some evidence about, for my case, and the officer doesn't show up.
Yep.
So the court attorney goes, all right, look, we'll knock it down to $80. Just pay $80 and we'll be done. So I did that one time, and then I got another ticket for something stupid. And I went back and I said, you know what? I did the same process, and I went, no. Redo it. We're gonna come back to court in another 3 months, subpoena the officer again. So not only did I have to go in and say not guilty, then I went back to court, then I went back to court again. That's 3 times, just for one ticket. But if you keep on saying not guilty, and the cop never shows up, it's zero. Yeah. You pay zero. You walk out completely free. And I learned if you ask the judge for it's called a witness fee. It's $50 every time you appear in court, and they actually have to pay you.
I did not know about that last one. That's wild.
Now, I haven't done it yet because I haven't gotten a ticket and fought it, but I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Because if you're the witness for your own case, you get the witness fee, supposedly.
Yeah. I've heard about the showing up to the, you show up to court because they, the officer has to show up, and if they don't, it gets, you get waived out.
So let's say you get multiple tickets, like a no insurance and running a red light or something. Like, if you go up and just say not guilty, the attorney will, first thing he'll do is he'll just wipe one away. He'll go, we'll take off the stoplight, just pay the no insurance. Here's another great one. If you get caught doing something like 10 miles and over or whatever, and you have insurance, act like you don't have insurance. Because then he'll write you a ticket for no insurance, and he probably won't write you a ticket for the 5 or 10 over. Then you take your insurance to the court and go, I do have insurance, here it is. Then they dismiss it, and you have to pay nothing.
That one sounds like it requires more acting chops than I have. So I might just lead on.
No, you just go. Yeah, no, just, hey, do you have it? Registration, insurance? Here's my registration. I can't find my insurance right now, but you have it. Then he writes you a ticket for insurance. Then you go to the courtroom, or you go to court and go, here's my insurance, and then they just wipe it out right there. You don't even need to see a judge. You do it right at the booth. So that way you get out of the ticket. But they think because the insurance one is way more money. Yeah. So that's I don't know. I consider myself a really good driver. Well, I consider myself a really good driver, and I always drive the speed limit. Maybe 5 over, but I see people in Vegas are driving 15, 20 over. Just in and out of lanes. So when I get a ticket, I'm like, that's bullshit. That's complete BS. No, I'm not going to pay the $200 for, not putting my blinker on long enough before I made the turn. You're out of your mind,
What's your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
My favorite non-exercise?
Yeah. So, sans working out, what's your favorite thing that you have to force yourself to do? For
My favorite thing
If you'd like an example, I've got
that
one
I
for
have to
you.
force myself. Okay.
So, I really enjoy the process of writing. I really enjoy writing scripts. However, to get me to do
Uh-huh.
that is like Sisyphus at the beginning of his day, like just pushing a boulder up a hill. It's just like, it's the last thing I want to do. But once I start doing it, especially when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I feel so good. I like it's so justifying and just like, ugh.
Ah, yeah, I gotcha. Probably cleaning and organizing. So, my garage has approximately 38 vehicles in it, not counting bicycles, which I have probably about 8 bicycles. So, I have even like a half level. So, I built basically like a platform or a stage that only goes up like 4 feet, 5
Mm-hmm.
feet. And then I have a 10-foot ceiling, and then I have like stuff on top and below. So, I have a workbench, I have 3 toolboxes, and all these storage shelves, and all these bikes. So, like I go in there and I have so many projects. Like each bike I know I have to do something
Mm-hmm.
on. And when I go in there, it's hard for me to like clean up or cuz I see so many things I need to get
Yeah.
done. But when I do, like I have some more room, I have like all this workspace to work on stuff with. I find all these parts that I've lost throughout the, rigmarole. So, and like organizing your toolbox, oh, it is like Zen therapy, man. Like, get all your sockets all lined up and put all your Allen wrenches in the screwdrivers in the same.
Yeah.
I have a really nice like method to my madness when it comes to my toolbox where I don't even need to like think. I can just grab, oh yeah, third drawer, those are pliers. Second drawer, that's flathead screwdrivers. Fourth drawer, that's quarter inch.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth drawer, that's 3/8. Like I have it all dialed in like perfect. So when I do this, it's like so nice because again, I have like more room to walk around. I can find all the parts and I can actually finish projects because I found the parts that I've been looking for years, months.
Yeah.
So probably organizing and
Yeah.
cleaning up.
I know. I don't have that circumstance, but I know that feeling for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And like when I get rolling on it, like I can really zone out and like I'll spend like six
Yeah.
hours, like just full, like almost like sweating, like just going through, okay, this stuff, okay, we gotta put this with the nuts and the bolts, and this is the screws, and this is the nails, and like I'm over there sorting out bins of like nuts and bolts, and I like go through all of them. Like it's crazy.
Well, while we're in that area, what inanimate object would you be best friends with were it sentient, do you think?
Hmm.
Huzzah!
Boy, that is a good question. Yeah. Um, I collect vintage
Mm-hmm.
tools. I just have like a little bucket full. Again, thrift stores, swap meets. I love searching around, and I find these vintage socket wrenches, and they all have like a slightly different shape, but they all do exactly the same thing. But sometimes you find some like from the 30s and 40s, and they're just so cool. And I have a sandblaster, and I'll take them all apart. Like sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
see videos on, little videos on YouTube or something, where a guy will like get a old, bench vise, and he'll like take it apart, and it's all sped up, and then he'll like sandblast it and makes it all brand new metal. And I've done this quite a few times, but there's this one wrench that just, I don't know, I just sandblasted it and it came out like so cool because it was really rusty. And I polished all the bearings and I took all the ratchets and the springs out and I sandblasted everything, put it back together, re-greased it. And man, there's this beautiful like happening
Uh-huh.
when you redo something like from everything apart and you put it back. And I call it a
It's so
mechanical
perfect.
symphony. Because yeah, and it's just like it's totally like Sherlock Holmes, in that one scene where it's like
Mm-hmm.
his mind's doing all these things and he's calculating. that's what my mind goes to when I like take apart an engine or I take apart a tool, complex tool,
Love
and I
it.
put it all back together and it still works right. And like I know that I had my hand on each and every single piece and every gear and every bearing and every little clip and spring. And then I put it all back together and made it right and cleaned it and like sharpened everything up and made it work again from, not working. It just makes, God. So going back to that, I think I would probably do the second moped I ever built.
You had me. I thought we were doing the socket wrench. That's so funny.
It was. I know, the socket wrench.
Yeah.
So the sound of it was just like this cool, like clicking, like this ratcheting, But it was so like just really cool. But definitely, it was this really late night, and I had taken this engine all apart, and it had all these parts into it as a 2-speed engine. And I remember starting it up after like repainting it, and it was just so cool. I got a lot of time. It was my first full engine rebuild. And I put it back together, and I started it, and I gave it gas, and it went backwards. Because I put one gear, like it was a ratcheting gear, and I put it in backwards, and it made like everything turn wrong. It was really funny. So I knew, because I wasn't sure about this one thing. So I knew what was wrong. So I just took apart one little piece and I flipped it around, and then it worked. But like, God, ear to ear grin when you're riding this little machine. Like it just like it's purring. And it's doing exactly what it should. And also, it's like the first time you've ever heard it run. At the same time, is like you put all this love into it. So it's like it's this big like emotional and time and like not knowing what you're doing and then knowing what you're doing and then it's all this payout all at once.
That's so
I
cool.
made a thing live again. So it'd probably be my second bike. I call it the Army Moped. It's a Gorelli 2-speed. Moped from the late 70s, and it's all army green, and it's really cool.
I hit you with a hypothetical.
Yeah.
You're going out to a party, perhaps even a Super Bowl party, and you want to look extra. You want to look magnificent, fantastique. Other than your normal garb, what accessory do you add to your ensemble?
Yeah. Boy. Probably like a sharp sport coat, just tighten it up. Or I'm a handkerchief guy. I am a handkerchief guy like for the rest of my life. Like I don't know if you ever had this experience with an older man, like maybe your grandfather or your old uncle or something, maybe even your dad.
Sir, I'm single.
Like, like they just like something happens, they just pull out the handkerchief and it just saves the day. God.
Yeah.
So I bought myself like a big box of handkerchiefs and all different colors.
Where do you keep your handkerchiefs? Do you do it like super old man back left pocket?
Yeah, back left pocket. I like, it's a square. You fold it in half again so it's long. Fold that in half and then just stick it in so it's sticking out where you can see it, but it's not like I'm a gangster, like I'm representing the Crips or anything. And it's funny because
it's like you're playing very tight knit flag football.
Yeah, like real tight. Yeah, maybe hanging out like 3-4 inches. Like it's hanging out a little where I could grab it just in a quick second. But having kids, wiping noses, being a mechanic, you gotta wipe your hands, you gotta wipe sweat off your face. In Vegas, it gets hot. You get a handkerchief, you dip it into water, you wring it out, you put it around your neck. You're cool for the rest of the day. Like, man, definitely a handkerchief. I have some cool hats too, some real fun cool hats. So depending on the party, but yeah, probably just dress up snazzy, throw some cologne, grease up the hair, handkerchief.
A handkerchief. I'm digging it.
Yeah, probably the handkerchief. More, I'm definitely a function over form guy. So for me, like I'll come to a party and just look at my work clothes.
A mechanic who's
thanks for dressing up. I'm like, oh, fuck it. Then I tell a couple jokes and got everybody laughing. So again, I'm more of a function over form.
Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life? You can pick the time period of yourself and what is occurring, as well as the time period of the actor. If you'd like to say, have a, Marlon Brando in his prime.
Oh yeah,
portraying the old Wes and David.
Yeah. Well, it would probably be. it would probably be like maybe like as far as era wise, probably like, you know, mid 80s to mid 90s or something. And as far as actors, man, Val Kilmer in Tombstone was so damn cool. And every once in a while, if I cut my hair a certain way, and I sometimes I grow a handlebar mustache. People always say I kind of look like Val Kilmer from that movie. I have a half brother that looks a lot like him too. So I'd probably say Val Kilmer and his like Tombstone days, because he was just so
90s,
so,
yeah. All
so
right.
badass.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, this might be the same answer to the same question,
Mm-hmm.
but who's someone you've never met, alive or dead, that you'd like to have lunch with?
Oh man. Probably, probably Chuck Berry. So
All right.
Chuck Berry is my favorite guitarist, singer, songwriter, showman. All three, all in one. Unarguably the king of rock and roll. Like,
Fact.
Elvis, whatever. Yeah, he was so pretty, and he played acoustic guitar. But Chuck, man, no, Chuck Berry never covered anybody's songs. Everybody always covered Chuck Berry songs. And I got to see him when he was about 80 years old, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
There's this saying, never meet your heroes. Well, boy, let me tell you.
Definitely not when they should have retired.
Yeah, I mean, God, he was just so bad. I mean, it was still like, if I knew now what I knew then, if I knew then what I knew now, I would still go just to say I saw him. But yeah, it was bad. It was a bad show. But yeah, I'd love to sit and pick his brain about his songwriting process, and the good old days, and what his favorite song and singers were, and his influences. I would love to pick his brain and sit and play guitar with him. Would be like amazing.
Fact. Well, sort of in the same wavelength. What media, whether it be book, graphic novel, TV show, or movie, have you been putting off that is next on your to consume list that you just can't wait to break open?
Boy. I started reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance years and years ago. This is I don't know if have you ever
I've heard of this book.
Yeah, so, and I don't even know if I own a copy right now. I think I got about halfway through it, and then something, like, I think I had to move and I lost the book or something. But this book is a duality book where he's this small time mechanic, and he gets an old 450 Honda motorcycle from, I would say, the early 70s, and he plans a trip, like a really long, like, I don't know, maybe month-long trip, like almost cross-country, if you will, with another guy that's a little more wealthy, and he has this fancy BMW motorcycle, and they're driving. And as he's driving, he's like, kind of like cataloging like all the maintenance that he has to do on the bike. And okay, I tightened up some spokes because they were rattling today, and my chain is off a 1/4 inch, so I tightened it up, and probably gonna get a new tire soon in the next town. Tighten the rear brake. It's about half life, so I probably can make it through the rest of the journey, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of goes on, and he gets into the really specific technical things, so if you're a mechanic, it really pops out and stands out to you. But then as he's driving, he slips into this, like, past life where he's lived as another person, and he's, like, doing these, like, big, like, archaic battles with axes and clubs, and from what I remember. So it was just really, really neat. And I wish I would have finished the book, but I need to definitely finish that one, because I went to a vintage motorcycle auction, and they were selling his toolboxes that like he made a little hand engraved plaque with his name on it and everything, and so I got a chance to go and actually like touch his toolboxes and touch some things that he actually owned. And it was funny because I was like super geeking out and nerding out at the time, and it was very, very cool. So
do we have an unexpected second guest in
We
here?
do. We have a surprise guest. Do you want to talk?
One time I didn't talk,
1 second, Mom. He's going to talk. This is Thomas James.
and I had
Thomas
to have a
James,
talk.
hello.
Listen, there's somebody here talking to you.
Hello.
Hello,
I had
how are
to-
you?
I had to have a talk.
He has a Lego helicopter.
And
Whoa.
I had a game for you.
Mwah.
I had a game for
Oh.
you.
This is Isaac. You want to say hi?
Yeah, I had a game for you.
What game?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I made Lego thing.
A Lego game? Make Legos?
Yeah, it's forward, and I didn't see the game, and so he with the game.
Okay. Well, why don't you take this helicopter and go play in your room, okay?
I think
I love you.
with my toys.
Yes, with your toys. Put your other Legos on there.
Hi, I'm all my other.
And there he goes. Just as fast as
Well,
he came.
this is this is the best part of doing local recordings. Thank you so much, Thomas. Bye. Have fun with your helicopter. All right, before we throw it to a commercial break and I die of pure joy in my heart from that blissful moment,
Yeah.
if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
As I listen to the podcast, pick one song.
Yeah, what song should people listen to?
Oh, the song that I dedicated to my son was Forever Young. So it's actually a Bob Dylan song, but Bob Dylan is a terrible singer. However, he's a really good songwriter. I also went and saw him. Yeah, no, he is so bad. He is so bad. I went and saw him, and like he's singing a song, and like literally like 3/4 of the way through the song, I'm like, oh, this is All Along the Watchtower. I know this song, but like it was so bad that I didn't even know the song until he was almost done with it. That's how bad a singer he is. However, the songwriting is amazing. So this young lady sings it, and I believe it was on Sons of Anarchy. I could be wrong about that.
It was.
But,
No, it was. It's on their soundtrack.
yeah. So yeah, Audra May is the singer, and she sings Forever Young. I dedicated this song to my son. There's a lot of really important little lines in the song that I think resonated with me and that I wanted to resonate with him in his life. So definitely that song.
Well, I'm glad he came in to remind us of that, if not catalyze that into our existence. So with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy the totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Forever Young by Audra May. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself doing a mundane activity with nothing to keep you from gouging your eyes out or sticking a pencil through one ear and out the other? Uh-huh. Well, then perhaps I could introduce you to music. Music comes in a variety of different types, flavors, and colors. Theorists say that it's the best thing to introduce to your life since food. So go out and get some and make your life just a little bit more bearable. Welcome back, everybody. So, Wesson, what's your passion?
Oh, a long time ago, my dad asked me what I want to be when I grow up. And the only thing I could think was an artist. That's the only thing that like really like intrigued me, because I love painting and drawing and making things and building and creating. Mm-hmm. So in a way I still am, but I have this duality to me. I always have these little side projects that I'll do in spurts, where whether it's old wrench belt buckles, which I love making. I have plans to make a full suit made out of Crown Royal bags, which I'm probably going to commission somebody to do because my sewing skills aren't super good. I've made a robe or like a kimono out of beer bottle caps. I made a full bicycle out of, instead of the tube frame, I cut all the tubes out and I made a whole bicycle out of old wrenches. I welded them together and bent them. So I love creating and making it weird things, and I've built a tall bike, you know, where it's one frame on top of the other. So there's the little side of like little quirky little things to make and build, repurpose. Being a musician was probably my first part of my life's thrill, like learning guitar and singing and songwriting and playing with a band and learning cover songs and teaching guitar and gigging, going and playing shows. I really felt a passion for that when I was younger. It kind of has fizzled, just because it's very difficult to keep going, and it's also very, very not prosperous at the lower levels of musicianship.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to keep going down that road. I still play, but I don't, offer my services professionally anymore.
Yep.
And as of late, motorcycles have really just really taken over a lot of my time and free time. I am particularly cheap, frugal, if you will, be fancy.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I love a deal, and I really think it's special driving something or riding something that nobody else has, and that is a labor of love. Like you can't just you
You
can't
didn't
just
just go get it off the lot. There's some
yeah,
sweat
and it's not
blood
even like,
that you
oh, somebody
poured into
restored
it.
this for me, I'm driving it.
Yeah.
Like eventually something's gonna break down on it, or you need it'll sit and it needs the carburetor cleaned. Like I have stuff that is as old as that my father and mother have been driving when they were teenagers, like in the 60s.
Oh wow.
That I bought for pennies and like restored and got running. And I just, there's this certain thing that happens when you get a piece of garbage and then you clean it, and then you oh, if you
I'm
take
glad
off
you
this
said
thing,
it.
yeah, I mean, no, literally, it's like a toy or this little fun thing that somebody kind of abandoned and neglected, and you just clean it, and you it's these little steps, oh, you got to get new tires and tubes and all these little things, and then you put it together, and then boom, it starts and runs. Even today, I probably about a year and a half ago, I went to a garage sale. And I asked the lady, do you have any old motorcycles or anything? Bicycles? She goes, yeah, I got these two. And I was like, well, how much you want? She's like, $20. $20. And it was for two Honda motorcycles, like a dirt bike and a three-wheeler. Whoa. And they hadn't been ridden in probably at least 8-10 years. And I'm like, here's 20. I'll go get my truck. Yeah. And I literally put new tires in a front fender, cleaned the carburetor, and changed the oil, and kicked this thing over. And I just took it on a motorcycle ride today.
Awesome.
Out in the up in the dirt hills and everything. So I just love motorcycles, and I love the fact that you can get them, and then just give them a little bit of love, spend a couple 3 hours with them, and I'm super patient and I'm very methodical, and then you create this. It was made in Japan, shipped over here, sold, loved, resold, abandoned, and then came to me, and then I just give it an hour or two worth of love, and boom, it's got this new lease on life. For me, it's just like if money didn't have any role in time and I didn't have any responsibilities, I would do that all the time.
Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
so
I just love it.
Yeah, I hear that. That's the way you said that was like the end. It was like the perfection of pure. Like when it comes to like that, like unadulterated joy, you could hear it in the timbre of your voice.
I say that a lot because as an adult, we don't have like really joyful moments. Like, oh, I got a good parking spot, or oh, my buddy bought me a coffee, or you know what I mean? Like, there's no
it becomes a lot more tawdry and like basic and like
Yeah, you're
mediocre. It
just
doesn't have
surviving.
that
You're
kind
just
of-
yeah, you're just
Yeah.
like appeasing your responsibilities as an adult. Like that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Very, very few times, maybe one vacation you take and you know, oh, you're on a plane and you get a, you know, oh, a glass of wine or something, or somebody takes you out for your birthday, whatever. But even then, it's just kind of like you're not gonna jump up in the air and go yippee like a child, you know. And having a son that you know, I'm as an older man having a son, I feel like we really, really need that, and like just a little bit here and there, as adults, and that's what that riding motorcycles and I take a lot of my friends out riding motorcycles.
Mommy, are you my dad?
No, not right now. Go play in your room. Mommy will play with you. So I take I lead a ride of these vintage pedal mopeds. At the most, I've had like 12 people on the ride with me. And we get all these old bikes from the 70s that are older than me, you know, 40, 45 years old. And we take them on this paved bicycle trail on the outskirts right behind my house. And it goes for about 15 miles, and it strings through the foothills of the valley. And it's really windy and like up and down, but it's paved, but all around you is just open desert. There's nothing for miles. So it's really you zen out. And but at the same time, it's actually really a technical ride. So you have to really focus at the same time. But there's no, I mean, there's no speedometers on these things. There's barely a horn, a tiny little 6-inch headlight. Like you're just going for it, you know? And the engines really rev high, you know, 9,000 RPM, but you're only going like 35, 40, maybe 45 at the most. So you just have this feeling like you're really moving, you know? And this little tiny bike that weighs less than you is underneath you, and it's holding you up around the corners. And I get people that have never ridden motorcycles before. I've gotten people that like have full Harleys that only ride Harleys, brother. You know, those kind of guys. And I take them out on this ride. And they get to the end of it and they're like, that is the most fun I've had in a really long time.
Aww.
Yeah, it's and it's funny too because I take all different people from all different walks of life. The owner of my restaurant's pretty wealthy. Like he has like multiple Porsches, you know, and he has multiple houses, and he has a restaurant, and he has like
He has multiple porches.
yeah.
No,
I mean, I
that's the
guess
best
that's
way to
wealthy,
put it.
right? Like he probably buys 10 cars a year, brand spanking.
Whoa.
You know, he had he had the EV Porsche, and he has 2 Broncos because he couldn't decide on a color. You know, the new Bronco. So he's just, but now don't get me wrong. I mean, he's actually a really, really humble guy. I know it sounds like he wouldn't be, but he is. And I took him out on this ride, and he just like lost it. He's like, we're doing this every week. And
awesome.
he springs for dinner every time we go out to the Lake Las Vegas area where the ride ends, and it's this big fancy resort area, but it's like really like dead, and it's on this homemade like man-made lake, and it's like kind of bougie. There's like a Hilton and a Four Seasons, and so we go to like, you know, the Mexican restaurant or the Italian restaurant, and we go have, you know, pretty nice dinner, you know, $30 dishes, you know, $35 dishes, and he'll just pay for everybody's meal.
Aww.
Without question, and we ride back, and he's like this. We're doing this every week, like this.
That's
and then
so cool.
He'll like get his like buddies and wealthy friends, like, oh, you got to come on this motorcycle ride. You know, like you're gonna love it. These mopeds, Wess is so fun. And then I get kids that are like 20, 22 that have never been on bikes, and mopeds are pretty approachable. They're real simple. They're basically just like pedaling, front brake, back brake, and throttle, and that's it. Like it's just really basic. I give him a quick tutorial. I'll let him ride around the block a couple times, and I go, all right, here we go, you know. And I take him on this 30-mile round trip ride through the desert, and it's pretty.
That's so dope.
Yeah, it's really, 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 really fun. And I'm kind of a, you know, charismatic guy. I'm a character, so I feel like some people, like, they don't. If I say like you're gonna have the most fun you're ever gonna have, like they're like yeah whatever. They instantly like just, you know. They instantly either don't believe me or they just write it off as Wes is just, embellishing.
Yeah.
And then if I can talk them into it and they go on this ride, they like I said, I can hear them screaming.
Forever changed.
Well, I can hear them screaming in their helmets as they're going up and down the whoops, and, and they're like all stoked, and then they give me a hug or they give me money.
Aww.
Here's money for gas. Like, oh my God, is it okay if I invite my friends? Absolutely. So when the weather is permitting, we weekly have rides, and usually people
That's
are
so cool.
Yeah, they're asking me more than I'm asking them.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So when did you first fix up or obtain your first kind of vintage moped? Like when did this project begin? Is there a story that kind of facilitated its beginning, or was it just like, ooh, this moped looks cool, take it, take care of it, bring it back to life? How did this whole entire circumstance come about?
Well, let me define something before I answer that question. So a moped has pedals.
Yep.
The word moped is actually motorized pedal cycle, and it's where there's a 50cc two-stroke engine on a pedal-operated bicycle, but it's not a bicycle, it's a moped. It was made from the factory with the engine and the pedals, and it's about the size of a BMX bicycle. A little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. A scooter is like what you see riding around town, like an old Vespa or the modern Chinese scooters, which you see where you have your feet in the front and you can step through, versus moped would have pedals. So now that we have that defined, I was into bikes when in my early 20s, and I would just, whether it be a little Honda scooter or, a big Yamaha 4-cylinder 1100cc over 100-mile-an-hour motorcycle, like I had them. I was buying them and I was working on them. And I found this group of guys that were kind of into choppers, like old Honda CB750 choppers and XS 650 Yamaha, and they would chop them and make them cool, like bobbers and cafe racers. And they were just doing their own thing. It was like not really, there wasn't like any rules. You didn't have to, you didn't like, we would take the paint off and just leave it, let it rust. Or we would make our own parts, and we'd take a part off of this and put it on that. And it just, anything that went, and it was just this, and they weren't really serious. It's just a group of guys, and we'd ride around and get beers and tacos. And it was just this group of guys. And we, so one of them, texts me or calls me one day and he goes, "Hey, I saw this ad in Sandy Valley." Now, if you know Las Vegas, Sandy Valley is this weird tweaker area. Like, it's just south of Vegas, southwest. And you basically go out there to sell meth and or die. Because it's just like nobody cares what you do in Sandy Valley. Like, you just go out there, you live in your trailer, you tweak out, you take apart, refrigerators, and you just stay out there. So this guy bought like an investment property, and the ad said like over 100 mini bikes, $50 each, bring your trailer and cash, everything's going. Like, come at 9 a.m. Sunday, I'll be there, first come, first serve. And he posted pictures, and there was just tons of bikes, but they had been there forever, like at least 20 years. So like, I went with my buddy. I had a fistful of dollars kind of thing, and we went out there in this trailer, and I started buying like these Honda trail bikes and ATC 3-wheelers, and for some reason this little yellow moped caught my eye, and I don't know, the tank was kind of cool, and I don't know, something about it caught my eye, and it was only $50. So I'm like, you know what? And I remember picking it up, and it was actually like the ground and the dust had come up over the rim and had like,
oh wow,
it was basically like under the earth about 3 or 4 inches. So I had to like break the crust off of it and like dust it off, and I just like threw it on his trailer and we strapped it down. I gave him the money for it and the other bikes I bought, and I went home. Well, I found myself like more intrigued by the little bike than I did the other bigger bikes that I owned and the other bikes that I bought. And the tank you could take off of the bike, and it was at a 45-degree angle. And the big thing at the time was cafe racers. Like cafe racers were like the cool thing at the time in the early 2000s. So I welded a crossbar on this moped, which was kind of a U-shaped frame that you could step through. And I put the tank on it, and I found these little handlebars from my bicycle or something that I had, and I put them on, and they kind of went down below where they bolt on to the frame, the triple tree, and it just made this cafe racer bike like instantly. And it was just like, oh, it was like that moment where like, oh, I got something here. So I just kept on playing with it. So, I got this frame all mocked up, and it just was this moment of like, bing. And so I just kept on playing with it, and then I started searching the internet for performance tips and things, and there was this whole like subculture of people that like rebuilt these and like souped them up. And legally they're only supposed to go 30 miles an hour, and they're supposed to have 2 horsepower. And guys were putting big bore engine cylinder kits and special performance exhausts and bigger carburetors, and they were getting them to go like 45 and 50 miles an hour, and we're up in the horsepower by like 4 times, getting 8 and 10 and 12 horsepower out of these bikes. So I eventually got all this stuff going and bought all these parts and got this bike really humming. And I would take it to like my buddies' houses when we had motorcycle night. And these are like, some of the dudes were like big beer belly, bearded, Harley brother guys, And they're, giving me a hard time, and they're like, look at this little monkey fucking football bike, And I say, go ride it. Get on it and ride it. And it would do about 45. And 45 on a bicycle is frightening.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's a lot fast.
So I get them on it, and some of the guys were so big that like they couldn't get both of their feet up on the pedals because they were just too fat. They're just big people. But anyways, they get on this bike and they would go zinging down the road and come back, and if they didn't have the biggest shit-eating grin on their face when they came back, every single one of them,
awesome.
Hey Bobby, you gotta ride this. This thing is cool, man. This thing rips. Every single one. I go, that's why. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Pure, unadulterated fun.
Just fun. And again, as an adults, we don't have it as much as we need.
Yeah. That's so cool. This is on a whim because it looked cool. That's awesome.
This looks weird. I've never seen anything like this. You don't see them. That's the thing. I'll ride them around and I'll ride them to work. Just because, I work at this little coffee shop. It's downtown. It's easy parking. I park it on the sidewalk, and weather's nice. It's cheap on gas, and it's just fun. And I have all these little back roads that I take instead of taking the main streets. And I show up, and you get these old guys walking around. Man, I haven't seen one of those since 1982. I used to have one of those. Wow, where did you get that? Kind of thing. And that's that exclusivity about a vehicle that I love. You'll get it here and there, or you'll get people turning their head like, whoa, what is that? That's what I really like about having unique vehicles, is that that opportunity to engage people and have this common thing to talk about, to start talking to people and communicating with people about a shared interest. It's just that's one of the building blocks of life.
Totally. So how many bikes? How many of these bikes do you own?
I own so many. I don't know how many, but as far as mopeds, it's probably in the 40s.
Nice.
Like 43, 44-ish.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the most you've spent on one, and what's the least you've spent on one?
The least I spent on one, a buddy of mine started building one because I built the army bike, and he found one that was exactly the same, and he started building it into a cafe racer. I helped him with all this specifics and getting the engine going, but he paid for all the powder coating and the seat to be redone and the new parts. And he was a bicycle guy. He was really into old bicycles and all different kind of bicycles. And he got it all built and everything. We rode it around like 2 or 3 times, and he said, you know what? I got no business being on this. And he just never rode it. And it sat in his garage until the gas went bad, like for probably about 3 or 4 years. And he moved, and he ended up moving, and he just called me one day, and he goes, hey, come and get this freaking moped out of my life. And so he gave it to me.
That's sad and beautiful.
Yeah,
At the
I
same time.
mean, it was one of those things where it was like, I'm not gonna use it. You're gonna love it and use it. I just take it, And maybe one day I'll come and get it back. Maybe not. Probably not. Just whatever. So technically free on a completely restored running bike. And then the most I ever paid was $2,000, but I didn't actually pay $2,000.
Story time.
Yeah, story time. Here we go. Buckle up, kids. A friend of mine who I was getting into mopeds, and he bought one, sends me a picture of this really old DKW German baby blue and white pinstriped, pink and white seat, white wall tired, beautiful 1960s moped. So most of the mopeds I have now, almost all of them, are in the late 70s. Mm-hmm. But there was mopeds in the 60s. They just were kind of more of a rich person or just a quirky thing. They weren't very popularized. The fad didn't hit yet until the 70s. So to find a really old one, it's kind of special. And this one was amazing shape. The tires held air still. The seat leather was supple. Everything was amazing on it. The paint was perfect. And he sends me a picture of it, and I go, "Where is this bike?" And he's like, "Oh, this old guy has it, whatever." And he wouldn't tell me where it was. And I called him every single day for a week. Every day I texted him. Every day I called him. Every day I left a message. Every day for at least 10 days. So finally he's like, "Okay, here's the guy's name and here's the spot, whatever." So I went down there and uninvited, I just show up, and this guy has this warehouse, and he has all this vintage stuff, clocks and really high end vintage super the first TV sets. He had 10 of them, all this vintage furniture, I mean a lot of money worth of stuff. And he has these two bikes. One's a Solex, which is a French bike with a little engine on the front wheel. And then he has this beautiful DKW. And I'm like, hey, and I'm kind of poking around the shop I'm window shopping. And this guy was kind of you could tell he was a businessman. He didn't have a lot of time. He's a really heavy set guy, and he was kind of grumpy. And he's like, "Look, man, what do you, do you want anything? I'm not really it's appointment only. I only sell to people who buy, have cash. I make deals and then I leave. It's not a store where we're open hours." And I'm like, "Well, I'm very interested in this blue moped here, I'll give you $400 for it, And he goes, "Pfft." He goes, I deal in thousands," he says to me. And so I go, "Okay, well, I deal in hundreds. I'm just, I'm young and I'm still building my, my life." He goes, "There's nothing wrong with that, but yeah. No, I got stuff to do. Listen, I have to move my house. I have to move my warehouses. I don't have time to nickel and dime and go back and forth. It's $2,000. All right." And I was like, "Can't come down at all?" "No, that's my bottom line, $2,000. Okay, great." So I leave. I literally walk out the door, and something made me turn around, and I go back in, and I say, "I got something that you don't have." And this guy was really ego, just real grumpy, bossy old shithead. And he goes, "I got everything." I go, "I got a strong back and a willingness to work. I'll help you move your house and your warehouses.
Nice.
And in return, you give me the moped." And he goes, "No way."
What?
I go, "Okay, but you're going to change your mind." I looked him right in the eye. "Okay, but you're wrong." I told him, "You're wrong and you're going to change your mind." And I just wrote my name down, Wess David, put my phone number, interested in the moped, will help move, help you move. Mm-hmm. I handed him the paper, I dropped it. "Have a good day. I'll talk to you later." And it was so it's going back to that service thing. You got to meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
And he was just really just very sure of himself, very matter of fact. So that's what I was. So if not the next day, he called me back. And he said, "I'm only paying you $10 an hour. You got to start at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You get a half an hour break." I go, deal. I'll be there tomorrow at 8 a.m. Okay. So at the time, I was working a night job where I was serving, and I would go in at like 6 p.m. till like 11. So for probably about a month, I was working every day, even Saturdays and Sundays, with this guy for $10 an hour, and he would write it down. I would write it down in my book, and he had a deal. If I helped him sell any of his pieces, he would give me 10% or something. And he had big pieces, like $1,000 pieces. I sold an old pinball machine for like $600, so I got $60 credit. So I'd write it in. So, anyways, that magical day happened where I came up, to 200 hours of moving people's, and he had warehouses. One of his warehouses was so big.
Hold on. What year was this? That is an acceptable rate.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I want to say probably like 2010.
That rate is still not okay then.
Maybe 2013 somewhere. No, it was $10 an hour was nothing. I mean, it was just stupid.
Yeah, like you were getting raw dog.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I had nothing but time, and I didn't have $2,000, so I thought, well, whatever.
And you had to have that bike.
I'm gonna get this bike.
Yeah.
So I got it home and got it running and everything. Now it actually sits inside the house up on the mantle, and I have a bunch of cool like moped paraphernalia, if you will, around it.
You've ridden it though?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a 3-speed, and you pedal it like a bicycle, and then you clutch with your left hand, shift it into gear with your left hand, and drop the clutch, and it starts the engine. Cool. You pedal backwards for the rear brake. You throttle with your right hand, and right hand also is the front brake. So each hand does two things, and your foot does two things.
I would somehow trip into a puddle with that thing.
Yeah, it's very difficult to actually figure out how to ride it, but once you get the technique, it rides like a Cadillac. It's got bigger wheels, and it's just a gorgeous bike. You need to look it up. It's called a Hummel, Hummel. In German, that means bumblebee. Because it makes that 2-stroke little buzz
what
sound.
What year is it? Hummel?
Yeah, 19... DKW Hummel. And it's a blue and white with a pink and white seat.
Let me see if I can find something.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous.
Wow. Yeah, I think I might have found the exact one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's got some white pinstriping, kind of like a...
Yeah. Oh wow, that is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a really pretty. It's just cute, and there's a lot of little the fenders kind of come down really low. Mm-hmm. And the headlight.
That's so dope.
Yeah, it's just such a neat little bike, and it's very, very old. Like every little part on it, you can tell is just old.
I would implore all of you out there to Google Hummel DKW blue, white, pink, and white seat. You'll get. There's one thing from Wikipedia. Oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous.
Yeah, and that's why I work 200 hours moving. If anybody knows, anybody ever moved, which I mean, I guess everybody has.
I literally just did.
Yeah, moving is the worst thing. There's hell, and then just one half step above hell is moving. In summer in Las Vegas.
Oh my god. I respect and am just aghast that you didn't try to haggle the hourly at all. That's true love right there.
Yeah.
When you're willing to that's some if you're familiar with the Bible, that's some freaking oh crap, my dad's gonna kill me. Is it Jacob? I'm trying to remember who the brother of Esau is. I think it's Jacob. So he ends up marrying somebody sight unseen, or works 70. It's not 70 years, but maybe it's 70 years. It's the Bible. They come up with bullshit amounts of time. He works a ridiculous amount of time to get married. Gets married. The dad of the daughter tricked him to marrying his other daughter, and so to marry the daughter he likes, he works another 30 or 50 years or some absurd amount of time to marry the woman that he's really in love with. You had that moment.
Yeah, I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna do it. Yeah. And I think that's going back to your previous question, what life hack, like be certain about things and just put everything you got into something that you want, and then you'll get it. Like even if you have to work and work and work, like if you just have the mindset of like I'm gonna get this, or it wasn't even that. Like as soon as I saw the picture, I literally made the decision that's mine.
Yeah.
And then everything else was just little jobs and hurdles and little
inconveniences.
Things to get it.
Yeah. So what would you say is your biggest misconception about mopeds or vintage motorized vehicles by the wider world? Like when you talk about this with other people or it comes up and people hear about this, what's the thing that they just have wrong?
One, that you don't need a driver's license to operate it legally on the street. People
You do
like,
or you don't?
no matter what you tell them, they will just like, but it's a bicycle, but it's a moped, it's a motor scooter, it's a scooter. You don't need a license. Yes, it's a motorized vehicle. You operate it on the street. You need to know the rules of the road. To make sure you know the rules of the road, you have to pass a driving test. So that's one. And then two is they're not reliable, if you will. You like people have come to me, they're like, oh, you have mopeds, like I have a friend that needs one to get back and forth to work, and I'm like, that's not what this is. And I'm like, I've literally like needed to sell them, and then somebody was like, I have the money, I want one, and I'm like, do you know how to change a tire on a bicycle? And they're like, no, I don't. I'm like, do you own your own tools? And they're like, no, I don't. I'm like, then I can't sell you this in good conscience.
Yeah, it's like a not rich person owning a Jaguar, from my understanding.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like Jaguars
exactly.
are.
It's like
from what I've been told,
gonna,
like Jaguars are this car that you just need to constantly be fixing and like
constantly.
messing
Yeah,
around
you
and,
just
like,
constantly need to be in the shop, just checking and redoing things. But when they run amazing, and you're super happy with them. But you're gonna constantly repair.
But you have to be your own mechanic.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're really easy to fix because they're very simple.
Yeah.
So there's this weird like duality. It's like, yeah, you got to fix them a lot, but it's pretty easy. It's like 4 tools you need to break the whole bike down.
But you still need to know how, and you have to be willing, which both
and
of
that's
those
the biggest
cancel me
thing,
out,
like
so
to be able to just like look at the bike and get in there and go, well, if this is loose, this can't be right,
Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. How many hours a week do you think for like general maintenance, as someone who rides them as much as you do, for the one that you ride? Obviously you're letting a lot of other people ride them on the weekly when you guys have the opportunity to, which is really sweet of you, and so you have to take care of those. But if it was just you, guesstimate how much you think you'd have to be like tinkering with them.
Yeah, so that's a hard one. So it's more of like unexpected things breaking. So like your chain will break, or you'll pop a tire, or your throttle cable. Everything's really small, and it's vintage, so like you never know. Like I have a really, really reliable bike. Like it never needs anything. It always runs. And then one day the intake manifold bolts just like fell out, and it just wouldn't run anymore. And we're like, this is weird. This bike always runs, like literally for years. 8 or 10 years, this bike like always started up second kick, always ran perfect, fast, reliable. It was amazing. And it's so unexpected, and it can be a total engine failure to something that's just like, oh, you just need to adjust the idle a little bit more, or just change the spark plug. Something. So it's such a hard question to answer, because it's not a calculated thing. There's literally no maintenance on a bike where you're like, oh, you have to do this every certain 1,000 miles. It's not like that. It's just whenever something breaks, you fix it. So it really depends on how well the bike was taken care of before you, or what parts and maintenance and things you've done. But as far as a weekly thing, I wouldn't even say an hour a week. An hour a week.
Oh, okay.
That's worst case scenario.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that is very that seems like an amount that is like acceptable for such a joyous,
I would say like
mode
probably
of
2 hours a
transportation.
month would probably be my average. Like if you got a vintage moped and you got it running, and it was everything was what it should be, changing tires, greasing the change, changing the transmission fluid, maybe a spark plug here and there, broken throttle cable, brake cable. Yeah, 2 hours a month. But you got to know what you're doing at the same time. If you don't know what you're doing, it could be a lot more time.
Yeah, I'll bet. Do you have a favorite non-obvious aspect that most people just don't realize, other than the pure unadulterated joy that is riding vintage mopeds, that you would like to, kind of lure people in with, perhaps?
So repeat that first part again.
Is there a favorite non-obvious aspect you have to vintage mopeds that people are just unaware of?
Non-obvious. Probably like, I know it sounds weird, but like the vibration of the engine and like how fast it revs. Because like I have a Harley and I have a big BMW, and like you cannot ride that bike at full potential of the bike. You'll kill yourself. Like the engine is so big that it like overpowers like sanity. Like if you were to ride your Harley as fast as it would go, you'd be going 120 miles an hour and getting speed wobbles in a straight line, and you couldn't do anything else, and you would eventually just die. So
Sure.
You can't ride a big bike. There was a great phrase. I'm trying to remember it. You can ride a little bike and it can give you all it's got, but you can ride a big bike and you can only get a little bit out of it. I don't know if that translates, but there's a certain feeling of the
You can
engine
ride a little bike big, but you can't ride a big bike, but you can only ride a big bike little.
Yeah, something like that. You can ride a big bike as fast as you want, but you can only ride a big bike slow.
Yeah.
So there's this certain feeling of just giving it everything it's got and tucking down to try to get those extra 2 or 3 miles an hour from the wind hitting you, and feeling the difference, and and feeling the engine rev when you go down a hill and slow down when you go up, and just that vibration of a 2-stroke engine, and feeling when the power band hits, when it really starts moving, and especially if you have a performance one, I've so many times like been in traffic and like somebody would pass me like right off of the green light, and then about a block or two away I would pass them doing like 10 over what they're doing on this little tiny bicycle, and look at them and kind of give them the, hey, what's up, remember me? And zing by them doing like 10,000 RPM.
Well, before we move on to a less delightful subject, is there anything else you'd like to say about vintage mopeds?
Don't spend more than $600 on them. And if you're interested in one in your city, there's probably a club that already exists, or at least a handful of people that are interested in it. Reach out to a website called Moped Army and try to find a club in your area. Go hang out with them. They'll probably let you ride one if you're cool. Bring some beer. Moped people are rad. I've crashed at countless people's houses that I've never met before, and I've had countless people that I've never met before crash at my house and ride my bikes. I've even borrowed vehicles like my truck and other mopeds to people that I've never met before that just came into town that heard about me from another person that I know. And they're just really good people, and you meet a lot of fun people. And if you're looking for something fun to do that's not really expensive, that's a little bit of a project but a lot of reward, get into mopeds.
That's what's up. All right. Now to see how much your engine revs in reverse.
Yeah.
Wes and David, what is your preposterous peeve?
Oh, people crossing the crosswalk on a red light. I get unreasonably angry. Like if I got the green,
does it matter?
If I got the green and I'm on a moped or a motorcycle, I will aim for them, full throttle it towards them. I'll kick at them. I'll throw whatever I have in my cup holder at them. Like I hate it with a passion.
I hear that.
The only reason I'm saying this, and it sounds like I'm being a jerk, But in Las Vegas, it's actually like an epidemic of people dying in crosswalks walking on a red. They just like, for some reason, there's this weird...
And my kill count's 9.
Yeah, it's this weird thing that happens. People like come to Vegas and they're just like, oh, rules don't exist. You can drink all night and buy weed and get lap dances. And you can open container, like drink on the street and walk around, and you could drink till the morning and like gamble, you know, there's like, it's like no rules, you know? And so like people that live here, they have to commute to work and deal with these people. Like, I get it. You're here on your 2-week vacation. You work, you know, 48 weeks out of the year or 50 weeks out of the year. And this is your 2 weeks to just like cut loose and be an idiot and get drunk on a Tuesday. I get it. But if you cross the crosswalk on a red, I'm aiming for you, buddy.
Please, I hope you swerve out of the way at the last minute.
I do. I don't hit anybody, but I
this
scare
doesn't
them.
have to be like a mug shot for your
I scare them enough to like teach them like, don't do that.
So like, does it matter if it's, does it change your ire whether they are going on your red versus not your red? Like, for instance, if they are not in your path as a driver versus they are, does it change how much it like rattles your chain?
No, because it's basic. Like, kindergartners know the difference between green and red. Yeah. Kindergartners know on red you don't walk across the street, on green you do. It's really basic. Like, we live in a society. We're not animals. Don't cross the street. It's a red
we live in
light.
A society.
Do you know how much money a year it takes to like build a red light and maintain it? Like, it takes a lot of money. Like, it's just a basic common rule of society. It's just the bare bones basic. Like, don't steal, don't murder, don't walk on a red light. It was the 11th commandment, but Moses ran out of tablets, so God's like, they'll figure it out.
When did you first notice this being so vexing for you?
Pretty much when I started riding motorcycles in Las Vegas, which was probably 20 years ago.
Do you have a time where this shone the brightest, where you perhaps drove a little too close to the pedestrian or something of that ilk?
So I like to. I don't know where I saw this, but it really like hit home with me. Like when somebody's, you know, you're having a disagreement with somebody or somebody's a bit jerk to you and they turn around and they're not looking at you, you like you act like you're gonna like punt a football, like you kick in the air as hard as you can really violently, but you don't hit them. It's just more of like what you want to do to them, but you can't because society says you can't. But then you do it just to feel better. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, I could have done this. Like you know.
Yeah.
So
it gets it out of your system.
Yeah. So like I remember like one time, there was a guy next to me in a car and I was on my motorcycle and we were gonna cross the street and the person like, you know, they looked both ways and then they just ran and then our light turned green and I looked at the guy and I just looked down and I just let the clutch out and I gassed it, you know, and I went at this guy and I kicked at him and then I didn't get him. I just like scared him and I kicked at him and I screamed at him like I'm herding cattle. You know, just to frighten the piss out of him. So as we're going down the road, like the guy in the car next to me catches up to me and looks at me, and he just gives me that like guy on a buffalo smile and nod. Like, yeah, brother. I would have done that too, you know?
While I cannot condone this activity, I definitely understand it. This is like watching a man like assault a jerk in public. Like, I don't think it's okay, but also I get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't ever hit them. I don't ever actually kick them. It's just like the attempted violence because they're effing up. Like, see, here's the thing. If everybody like there's a certain word like ridiculed other people for being stupid, I feel like the stupid people or the people that were being stupid would like, oh, I better quit doing this. You know, like if you hear like you kind of talk loud like 10 times in a month, you probably talk loud. Like you'll eventually like it'll sink in, you know. If you say like, "Oh, hey, you cuss a lot." Like if people are telling you often, you kind of cuss a lot. It makes people uncomfortable. You would probably eventually like, "Hey, I should probably stop cussing." You know what I mean? Like eventually society's going to have that like, "Oh." So I feel like if you kick at people when they're being jerks, not hitting them, but just kick at them. I'm going to start a new trend. Eventually they'll be like, I should probably stop like talking about my dog in this long line of people trying to get their food at the coffee shop.
I'll let you I'll let you integrate that new trend.
Just kick at people, friends. It's fun.
Yeah,
it makes you feel way better.
Don't kick at them. Passionate People and Preposterous Pete podcast cannot condone the wild swinging and flailing of limbs at random strangers.
I condone it. You can do it. Go ahead.
Yeah. On the flip side of things, so I live here in Los Angeles, and before that I lived in the Bay Area, and there's this thing I've noticed that instead of somebody walking on a crosswalk when they shouldn't, because of the way the traffic and the lights are lined up in often many intersections, the crosswalk symbol will be lit, but also so will be like the right turn signal or the left turn. And so they kind of intersect, which is bullshit and really just bad city planning.
Yeah.
But given that, a lot of times what will happen, and I appreciate it in big cities, is that both the driver and the walker are in the know, and the driver will turn and they'll kind of play, both of them play a game of Frogger where the driver fits through without trying to hit the crosswalkers, and the crosswalkers will run and get in front of it or kind of like stagger their steps to just be behind it while getting across the street as quickly as they can because everybody's got a place to be. Yeah. Does that kind of rub you in the same way, or is that copacetic?
No, that's copacetic. That's the other thing too. The people often like in the crosswalk when they shouldn't be always like have a bag that's like falling, you know, groceries out of it. They got a limp. They're missing a shoe. You know, they're pulling a shopping cart, but like from the back, not the front. You know, just like something stupid. They're doing something stupid.
Yeah. All right.
So if you're, I guess it's the disregard for other people's time versus like, oh, we both got places to go and people to, you know, so it's like
it's disrespect of laws, disrespect of time.
Yeah, it's just a disregard for other people's like rights, and like there was sometimes you gotta wait and sometimes you have to go. That's the other thing. The other thing that makes me mad is like when it's another person's right of way and they like won't go and they're like waving me on, which will cause me to be in danger because it's not the right thing to do. I get real mad about that too. I like scream at them. I'm like, it's your right of way, go, you know?
Yeah. All right. With that, we're going to head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere because when we get back, Wesson is going to enter the lightning round.
Lightning round.
Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company.
What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil?
Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company.
Okay, but...
Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price. Free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves. Or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but... Yup.
Even...
Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we are back. Wesson, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
I was born ready.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Wesson, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Nope, I couldn't. Even if I took the money I eventually would just like fall back into it and then just give the money back or get taken to collections. So no, unfortunately, no.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make the food all day.
Did
God, I'm Italian. To cook somebody food is the true meaning of love.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
I was homeschooled since the 3rd grade. So, like, I couldn't really, but at the same time, like, my mom browbeated me. It's like, if you cheat, you're just cheating yourself. And I totally got it. She's like, if you cheat, like, there's no point to cheating because you're not going to understand what you're doing in your life. So, no.
Wise. Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
Children who are wrong because they have a lack of knowledge, not stupidity,
Yeah.
but just a lack of experience. They're also coming from a point of view of just less time lived. So it's just they don't have all the information yet.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Ugh. I guess Fran Drescher. Gilbert Gottfried really gets on my nerves.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing the crown or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
Oh, second, for sure.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza all day. I love pineapple on pizza. I will fight somebody over that.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
80s professional wrestling with like Brutus the Barber, Beefcake, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ravishing Rick Rude. That was the golden era of amazing wrestling. Everything else, eh.
Stub your toe or make small talk with strangers?
Small talk with strangers all day.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Probably just another amazing thing. Like, I'm pretty positive, and I understand that there's ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but if you're focused on the negative, you're probably going to get it.
Nick Cage, best or worst ever?
The both. He is the best at being the worst ever.
Do you create your own thoughts or just listen to them?
Ooh. I am guided by my own thoughts, so I guess you would say listen to them.
Would you rather meet your mortal demise by vicious werewolf attack or single zombie bite?
I would say werewolf attack because I would feel like I was a little bit more at cause, like I was fighting back, like I would fight the werewolf, so I would want a fighting chance versus if you got bit from a zombie, like it's just an inevitable drawing out and you have to live with it and you know it's going to happen, so you got to do yourself in if you want to be a good person.
Bears, Beats, or Battlestar Galactica?
False. Beats are best.
Jackie Brown or Miller's Crossing?
Movie?
Yep.
Jackie Brown. I've never heard of Miller's Crossing.
Spend the holidays with your in-laws or work a double shift at your least favorite job ever?
Oh, in-laws. My in-laws are Cuban, and they're freaking hilarious. They have amazing food. They're lovely people.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
Absolutely. When I met my wife, I literally stopped breathing for about 10 seconds.
All right, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. You go into the doctor's office. He lets you know that you have a disease. It's curable, but you have two options for medicine. One, you have to measure out and take the exact same amount every day, otherwise you will die. Or one that you have to take at the exact same minute every day, otherwise you will die. Which medicine do you choose?
The amount. I'm really, really, really bad at timing. Like remembering dates and being on time, unless it's something that I really, really care about. So obviously I care about living, but I'm more tight with measurements.
Are truth and reality the same thing?
No. Absolutely not. Your reality could be different from another person's. It has to do with point of view and how you accept and see things and understand things and compute things. And your point of view versus overall truth that it's always the same for everybody.
Are we simultaneously living in another dimension at this very moment?
I don't subscribe to that. I don't think so. I don't know why I don't think so, but it doesn't seem possible. However, I do believe that the Berenstein Bears was Berenstein and not Berenstain.
Well, do you think you could eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Absolutely.
Congratulations, you've survived the lightning round!
Boom.
But before we move on to your prize, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what could you eat 37 of for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Sushi.
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
Also, barbecue ribs. I have been kicked out of an all-you-can-eat barbecue rib restaurant because I would not stop eating them.
Wow. That is impressive.
I was also 17 and had a
Still, though.
metabolism faster than any engine that I've ever driven.
What? So if it was 37 rolls as opposed to 37 like little sushi cutlets, do you think you could still do it? Or is that a field too far?
I could do it, but I would be in a lot of pain. I can eat a ridiculous amount of food. I can eat so much food. It's seriously scary.
Well, let's move over to something a little less scary and perhaps ask, what lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked to future guests?
I'm a musician. It's important to me. The Beatles or Elvis?
Beatles. Beatles for song, Elvis for dance. Beatles couldn't dance for shit.
Well, yeah, they weren't dancers, but I feel like Elvis was like the first boy band, if you will. It was a front.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
It was a front. At the same time, the Beatles were kind of too, but then they were like, no, we're actually musicians that know how to play and we have our original thoughts.
I mean, Elvis did put out some bangers. I think the bangers were a little bit more my speed.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more of them. But, I mean, there's no slide on the king. But, Beatles. All right, as we come to a close here, anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give?
Shout out to Tomahawk Moped Shop in LA. He's a solid dude. He put on a really amazing race back years ago in 2012, I think. So shout out to Christoph at Tomahawks. Shout out to the Woolly Bully Moped Gang in LA. They're also really great kids, and they have fun times and fun mopeds and fun rides. Shout out to my lovely wife, Lady, who tirelessly accepts my craziness every single day and has given me the best gift I've ever received in my life, which is my son. Shout out to my sister for recommending me on this amazing website. She and her husband are traveling around the country singing and playing music and hiking to remote areas and doing an amazing job. They're on all different platforms. YouTube.
They're on YouTube. This is we're talking about Raina and
Steve Blaze.
Raina and Steve.
BLAIS, and their channel's called Wandering Songs. If you're into amazing shots of Earth and really, really good musicianship and hiking and outdoors, they cover a lot of really fun stuff all in one channel. So subscribe to them and check them out. They're good people and they do fun things.
Yeah, they are. All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you for having me, Isaac.
Thanks, Wes, for being my guest today. And a special thanks are due to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow, If you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/passionate people and preposterous beefs podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.